Hi again, this is Brandon Flannery. Today I want to talk to you about blind spots. As a white male in America, I'm a very privileged individual, and that's definitely come into light as a result of our courses here. But probably the biggest thing that has been transformative for me personally has been this idea of blind spots. As a white male in America, I don't have to think about certain things that someone who is in a more oppressed position. For example, I wasn't raised to fear the police. I was raised to be annoyed with the police and not like them, but not afraid of them. I was raised that I could literally do anything when it comes to my professional life, when it comes to what I want to do with my life. I wasn't encouraged to get married. I wasn't necessarily encouraged to find a specific job as if I were a woman. These are different things, just small elements of oppression that I haven't experienced. I never even had to think about. This class has opened up my eyes to those blind spots and has allowed me to see things through a different lens. One situation that kind of proves that is I had to go to the doctors recently, and on the far side were portraits of the physicians. Every single one of them, there were about 12, were white, middle-aged, upper-class men. Not a woman was on there, not a person of color was on there. Then if you look slightly to the left, in a corner, there's two portraits of two women who look like they're upper middle class, white, and they're the RNs. And that is all the pictures that you get. Everyone in this office apparently is white, and the professionals are men. As a result of this class, I see those types of moments now everywhere. It's not just a here or there occurrence, it's actually a very common occurrence. Another blind spot that I didn't even see was a form of racism, for example, is I'm colorblind. Some of my best friends are people of color. Every person is the same. These are the types of things that I would say, this was my jargon. I think I even said on the first day of class that I was raised in California and all my friends were of different races, which is true, but that doesn't change the fact there are still preconceived ideas as a result of media, as a result of this culture that we are in. For example, playing the Guess Who game. As a white individual, I've been trained to not classify someone by the color of their skin. At the end of the exercise, I was proud of myself. I was like, ha, didn't use skin color. And then it goes into saying that we as white Americans have been trained to do this from a very, 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 very early age. And it's actually a form of racism. I never knew that. I thought I was playing a good, politically accurate part by not describing people by their skin tone, as if being black were bad, or as if being a Latino or Latina is bad, or being someone from Asia Pacific or Africa is bad, when they're not. They're just different descriptors of who we are, making us all individually unique. Another area that I consider myself when it comes to a blind spot is again in the form of racism. I had no idea about the GI Bill, and hearing Tim Wise talk about how it basically gave people a head start in life. The housing that my mother grew up in that allowed her to pursue a decent job, to get some education for these things, was a result of my grandfather being given a handout when it comes to housing situation that gave him a head start to life that other people don't have. White men were the ones that were given that handout, and I love what Tim Wise said, where he said, we need to get back to where in America was great. And his question in response to that is, great for who? Because we're at the first place in life where women and people of color, where queer individuals and handicapped individuals are having more rights than they ever had in their entire life. What better days do we want to go back to? And that was a very enlightening moment. But probably the most enlightening moment for me personally in this class was actually in this book. In chapter 6, he describes a scenario. The scenario is that normally he's not a selfish person, he's not a ruthless person, but while playing the game of Monopoly, he becomes both. He becomes something that he doesn't want to be. When looking at racism, sexism, heterosexism, ableism, all these things, I'm a very individualistic person. I want to know someone on an individual level. I don't want to make generalizations about people. I want to know them specifically, know their story, and I love that about myself. However, it's also a weak point about myself, because when it comes to issues of sexism, I immediately become a chauvinist and I have to defend myself and share how I'm not a chauvinist. But therefore, by doing that, I'm not addressing the problem. I need to see that this is something bigger than myself. Just like the game of Monopoly. It's a system that encourages people to be a certain way. In Monopoly, you're encouraged to be ruthless, to be selfish, to take advantage of people. In our system, the norm is to make stereotypes based off of someone's skin color. The norm is to make assumptions based off of someone's sexual orientation. The norm is to make assumptions about a woman or a man because they're simply a woman or a man. The norm says don't even think about someone that's transgender or is a different gender than the two that we've classified people as. These are the norms that we find ourselves in that we're encouraged to do that aren't necessarily healthy. Moving forward from this class, I think that I can walk away with a level of enlightenment, and I think I will still have blind spots, but I do feel I'm a better because of this class, that I do notice things, that I do notice how our system is flawed. A personal vendetta, I guess you could say, for me as a result of this class and interactions with other people in my personal life story is in reference to sexism and the gender roles that America has enforced upon people. Although we didn't talk about it in this class, there's a brilliant TED Talk entitled The Call to Men by Tony Porter, who was raised in the Bronx, who is, by every American standard, a man's man, whatever that means. And he shares about how these gender roles are robbing people of different identities, how they're continuing to procreate abusive situations regarding women as looking at them as objects instead of as an equal. But it all begins with this idea of a man box and what we should be. We must be strong, don't need help, can't look gay, we can't look like a woman. And as a result of this box, we're getting a caricature of masculinity instead of a full picture. And something that I want to see specifically in my life is to be true to who I am, regardless of what that looks like. I consider myself someone that is very sensitive and desires vulnerability with people, that has a lot of colors of emotion and not anger. There are interests of mine, like for example, theater and music, that would be immediately labeled as gay, which is absurd. And I'm tired of holding up a standard of a man box that the society has put me in. And yeah, this would be an example, as Johnson says, of resisting the area of least resistance, but I think it's time that, as people who have been equipped in this class, to stand up in those areas where there's only been least resistance, to see something change, to see respect for all humanity, regardless of what they look like, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of their sex, regardless of their ability, regardless of whatever, but to respect all life and value it for the intrinsic, unique value that each person has.